Hey guys, Waifu Belector here, the only fair human on Earth, and we live in a society, a reality, where movies are the perceived peak of media. Nothing is better than a movie. Movies are where you want to be. They're what you want to be. They should be the aspiration of all media. It is peak. That is more or less the perception. No matter what the media is, it's still not as legit as it would be if it were adapted into a movie. This is how people feel, and this is how they approach things. But there's a reason for this perception. There's a reason for the long reach of movies. Movies and television, but movies have framed themselves as premium, so they go a bit further in terms of critical cachet. But yeah, the reason movies are looked at in such a way and why they have so much reach is simple. It's the easiest media to consume. Anybody can get in on it with just about zero effort or investment. As people, our most prominent sense is our visual one. Seeing something is the easiest way to consume information and suss out what the hell is going on. Whereas if I read you a book and describe something to you, you have to actively attempt to imagine it. And why imagine Harry Potter wizarding around the halls of Hogwarts when I can just show it to you? Why bother to imagine? But even with other visual mediums, comic books and graphic novels, well, one, you still have to read, that's effort, and the images are static, they're still imagining to happen, so we just watch the movie instead. Now, on the other hand, music is just as easily consumed as movies, but music lacks that visual component. There aren't music videos for every single song, and you can incorporate music into a movie. Audio is an important part of movies, in fact. But then you come to video games, and at one point it was just Pong, it was just Space Invaders, but over the decades, as tends to happen, the medium evolved and progressed. Now you can play a game and simultaneously watch an amazing story as part of it. The graphics and technical side of gaming have gotten so insane that in certain shots and instances, they can be indistinguishable from reality if they so choose. So, why have video games not overtaken movies as the peak medium in the societal zeitgeist? Well, the answer is still ease. The thing about a book, the thing about a video game, is it doesn't go unless you make it go. It doesn't move, the story doesn't progress, you don't get information unless you apply effort to have those things happen. But a movie, no such effort required. You can kick your feet up, daydream through a chunk of it, get on your phone for a bit, doze off for just a second, and you'll still make it to the end and form an opinion. So with no effort, you got to be entertained, and you've gotten in to be part of the cultural entertainment chatter, even if you shouldn't be. So that ease is ultimately what makes movies so popular, and that popularity is what gets movies viewed as peak media form, because movie and TV watchers don't always tend to engage with other media forms all that much. And this perception of movies being peak then snowballs into everyone believes it whether it's true or not. And we believe it so hard that all other media aspires to be movies. And I know that was long, but now I want to talk about games. Remember that thing I do? So yeah, games are not exempt from wanting to be movies. Just like how books are sometimes written now with the idea of a film adaptation in mind, and music careers are simply used as a stepping stone to try and get into films, video games will sometimes create an experience that's little more than a glorified movie despite being called a game. This is what we'd call a movie game. But there's some confusion about the idea of a movie game, I feel. So let's just clear up the idea really quick. Any game that puts a significant emphasis on narrative is not automatically a movie game. For example, Metal Gear Solid 3 is pretty narrative heavy. It even has some long ass cutscenes. But the gameplay is meticulous and thought about and attempts to be creative and fun. It clearly had care on that side of it. The God of War games have amazing narratives, but their efforts are for that to go alongside amazing gameplay as well. Putting effort into the presentation of your story is not a movie game. Movie games are when the gameplay is neglected or put at a bare minimum and simply used as a vehicle for the story. One of the most notorious movie game offenders is the development team Naughty Dog. Both the Uncharted series and The Last of Us are very much movie games, where the gameplay was made to be completely unimpressive or unfortunately sometimes even unenjoyable in favor of just making something cinematic. And I do want to say that with The Last of Us, I am specifically talking about the first game. I think the second game really tried to make something that wasn't completely unfun to control. But anyway, it's not just Naughty Dog who creates these kind of experiences. The Tomb Raider reboot series were movie games, except for the third one I felt was actually a legit stealth game. But the first two, straight up movie games. Hellblade 1 and 2, complete movie games. They might be even more egregious than Naughty Dog's offerings. A Plague Tale Innocence, the first game, not for lack of trying, but I think it ended up just being a movie game with some basic stealth mechanics bolted on. But my point is, a lot of these movie games are well received and given high praise, and most of it is probably simply because of their similarity to movies. Because as we established, movies are viewed as the peak of media, so if you emulate them properly, I suppose you too can be viewed as peak. But looking at it more clearly, in the world of gaming and in a space where what games do is valued, the question arises, are these movie games even good? And are they valid as games? Can a game that devalues its actual game aspects even be good? Well, yeah, I think so, because those important aspects being devalued and de-emphasized isn't the same as the aspects being completely bad or non-existent. But I do think there are drawbacks that come with significantly valuing your narrative above your gameplay, because these are games after all, and gameplay is the most important thing. And I think when you approach your game like that isn't the case, and instead treat gameplay like it's a bare minimum bar to be hit so that you can tell your story, that puts a cap on the overall quality of your game, except for in the opinions of the most casual of media consumers, which is most people, so fair enough. But to those who value gaming and recognize what it brings to the table and don't believe that the aspiration of all media should be to be a movie, I think there is a certain failure to deliver on the actual video game part of your video game that makes it impossible to go beyond a certain level. Like all the games I was naming earlier as movie games, I don't think they're bad games, except for Uncharted 1, aged like milk on a summer sidewalk. But most of these games are still good games when you take their mediocre or iffy gameplay in tandem with their stories and presentation. It's just tough to go beyond a certain point of game quality without a certain level of gameplay. And to be frank, I think it's a trap for games to pursue being movies. For one, because I think we've reached a point where games can do what movies can, as well as bring in the unique qualities of the gaming medium. But movies are incapable of mimicking gameplay. So by pursuing being a movie, I think games are only diminishing themselves, pursuing the perception of quality rather than quality itself. And the second reason is, well, we established the ease of movie consumption, and because of that, the medium has a massive casual popularity. But when something has a massive casual popularity, it simply seeks to retain it and expand it. So in other words, that extremely casual audience is being catered to. And like I said, people are half asleep, daydreaming, and on their phones while they quote-unquote watch a movie. And then they form an opinion based on what little they can be bothered to pay attention to. And that's who movies cater to first and foremost. Whereas if you're playing a game that really can't happen, you're kind of forced to pay attention because it literally doesn't move unless you do. So because movies are the most popular and upheld media, they are the most susceptible to producing non-substantive mediocrity. Not that good quality movies aren't being made, but you have to sift through more garbage than other mediums to find them. And the cream doesn't always rise to the top despite the popularity of that phrase. So in short, I think attempting to mimic the medium most likely to produce low quality art isn't the wisest idea. So at the end of the day, while movie games aren't my favorite, I think they can be enjoyable. They just aren't the best of what games have to offer and kinda don't even come close. And this kind of dismissal of games' gameplay isn't necessarily exclusive to movie games, they're just the most common offender in the modern day, and I'm not too fond of the reason for the movie game decision. But what about graphic adventure games? Have you ever played Doki Doki Literature Club? It's an interesting graphic narrative adventure with a weird and twisty story, but it's not really a game. There's not gameplay to play. It's a digital storybook that uses its medium as a setting. So yeah, is there an actual point to this video? Well, I think I'm saying all this just to acknowledge the greatness of video games and to say I don't think they need to aspire to be another medium, because a game trying to be a movie at this point kind of feels like running backwards to win a race. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a like, and if you also love video games, then consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks in advance, and until next time, I am Waifu Belector. I am just a normal guy. I like hentai, and I hope you think of this video next time you call something in a game cinema. Goodbye.